It's the end of the first phase of my Kids Printmaking Space. And beside what you see on the screen is the We Play Rembrandt press, the end product. After all the trials and errors, all the purchases paid for by the supporters of the GoFundMe project, we're drawing it to a close and going into the next phase using Indiegogo. So watch for an announcement. For 10 years, I collected snapshots. Many of them were kids in Riga using our mini etching press. But something changed suddenly when kids started coming in asking about 3D printing. And years ago, I made the wee witty Rembrandt press with the help of some of my friends. And this is the press I think we can make in plastic. Already, Martin Schneider has made a 3D printed press in Cologne, Germany. This one and that little tiny black one. But frankly, I can't do that here without money. And that's why I'm doing a GoFundMe. If there are questions you have, you can send me your questions and I'll be happy to explain. Thanks for watching. Well, I would expect the first question would be, what am I going to spend the money on? And here's my shopping list. It's here, the first Kids Printmaking Space Lab 3D printer. With this, I will be able to print a press, print a paper mold for handmade paper, print printing plates, and then print that plate on the paper on the press. Thanks to Christine, Geralda, and Nellie Adele for their contributions to the GoFundMe project. I hope you'll donate too. Yes, it's here. The 3D printer is here, and now I need to watch a lot of videos on unpacking it because there's a complicated process. And we got another $50 donation today. I'm very grateful for that. We're that much closer to the completion of the Kids Printmaking Space Lab. It's actually starting. I feel like Dr. Frankenstein. The 3D printer for the Kids Printmaking Space is starting to print the decal for the papermaking phase of the project. Let's see if we can take a closer look. That yellow line is the outline of the decal. It's going to be a box. It's going to take about 5 hours. My name is Bill Ritchie, and I'm rebranding myself as a printmaker. And so what you see on the screen is a 3D printer, but it's not what you think. I'm not making prints with a 3D printer. I'm making the parts of a studio. And this studio is part of my rebranding process. See, I was branded as a printmaker in 1960. That's over 60 years ago. And now it's 2024. And the old brand, frankly, doesn't work. It's still fun. I still like to make an etching now and then. But I'm a kid again. And if someone gave me an etching press today as a kid, I'd find it to be almost totally useless. You know, I would lose attention real fast. Frankly, I wouldn't know what to do with it or why I was doing it, and I would be much more interested in my 3D printer today. So, since I love kids, I decided around 10 years ago in 2014 to redefine. I started the process right after I left the Southern Graphics Council printmaking conference in San Francisco, where I met a lot of people who were looking at our mini half-wood presses at the time. And on the way home, as my wife drove the car, I made notes, and I sort of wrote down a Declaration of Independence. And I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew that I'd been there and I'd done that, and going to that conference was like the ultimate trip to Mecca. And it wasn't all I thought it would be, frankly. I kept on for the last 10 years, and I arrived at the conclusion that the best thing I can do now as a creative, innovative artist was to create a kids printmaking space. And so what I'm creating here with this 3D printer, with money contributed by people to the GoFundMe process, is the makings of a kids printmaking space lab. My idea is to make this studio of ours, the mini art gallery we call it, into a showcase sort of for developing kids printmaking spaces. Now, we're not sure what form these should take, frankly. I started one about a year ago that looks like this. I modeled it after the workshop in Riga. Here's an example of a girl in Latvia working with our mini half-wood press, and kids on a cruise that we made on the Emerald Star, Lake Union. Here's a kid in our space pulling her first etching. Another inspiration was the Open Press Project 3D printed plastic printer from 2018. I have two of them now. This is the smaller version of the 3D printed press. The workshop in Riga, called Graphic Schola, also has music alongside their printing and their monotype systems. They're very beautiful, inspirational. As far as paying for it goes, as far as paying for the kids' printmaking space, that of course will be up to the consumers of this space. The people who buy the space either as a school organization or as families, to buy the equipment to make the parts, such as the 3D printer. Well, I'm done rambling. For the next 4 hours, I'll be doing other projects, and the printer will be continuing making the decal for the kids printmaking space. The revolutionary thing about my kids printmaking space is it's actually intended to be global in character. I've traveled around the world, and I have taught college-level printmaking for 20 years, almost 20 years. So what I'm bringing to the table is a global vision. It means that kids using these printmaking spaces will be exposed to global issues. I'm concerned about climate change, for example, and I believe STEM education will go a long way toward helping solve the problem and help kids make a better world for themselves. And my contribution to STEM is the print model as the A, the art, in STEAM, and my ultimate aim is to add reading and writing also. Well, thank you for listening, watching. I'm Bill Ritchie. My friend David stopped by just as I was taking another part out of the 3D printer. It came out to be wrong, and so he helped me fix it, dimensional in, and I hope this one works. And so when he left, I gave him one of these failures as a souvenir, and he said he was going to make a keychain out of it. That was funny. The interesting thing about printmaking in the 21st century is that you learn printing on a 3D printing press, which is, of course, a 3D printer, whereas in the 20th century, we only printed in 2 dimensions. But even more interesting than that is my 5-box printmaking teaching method is that you first print a mold and decal for making paper, and then you make paper. The second step is you make a printing plate, and this one is going to be a QR code, which is another story in itself. When you've printed the plate, you next print your press. The working model I'm doing now, which is more of a sketch than anything, looks like this, and it's identified with Rembrandt because it was a copy of a 17th century press. When you've printed your press, then you process your plate, you get your plate ready, and probably use a 3D printed brayer like this one to get it ready to print if it's a relief print. And fifth is a step which is frequently ignored, which is the social aspect of printmaking. The fifth step is that you make a print pal somewhere in the world by a network dedicated to print pals. Sure different than what I learned in college. It was 90 days ago, April 8th, 2024, when donors gave me enough money to buy a 3D printer, install 3D modeling software, and start the Kids Printmaking Space. And this is the lab. You may know that years ago I made the wee woody Rembrandt press from wood, and before that I made the half-wood presses, which were miniaturized etching presses. This one is designed after the same press, after the press designs of the 17th century, when Rembrandt was making his famous etching, and he has become sort of the theme of these presses. And so what we make in plastic today is called the We Play Rembrandt press. PLA is the type of biodegradable plastic that the 3D printer uses. I'm so glad that I got the support of those donors to the GoFundMe plan and allowed me to buy the first printer. And tomorrow, on Sunday, June 9th, the second printer arrives, which is much smaller, a tiny footprint, yet it has the same capabilities of this larger one. So the Kids Printmaking Space lab is continuing. Thank you for supporting the project. Well, here it is. The same company makes a smaller press called the Joy, and I ordered it so that it fits more on the Kids Printmaker Space that I designed originally. So that's about it for this update, and I thank my donors again and ask those who have not yet given to the project to please do and tell your friends. Thank you. Getting close to the end of my course in the Kids Printmaking Space. This is the first segment of the top roller of the We Play Rembrandt's press. And just to give you a little bit of an update, the little sister to the first of the 3D printing presses, the Joy, part of the X-Maker family of presses or printers for kids. I'm looking for a group or family to join me in using the Joy to print parts for the presses. And this is my workplace with all the parts, current parts that I'm working on for the We Play Rembrandt press. And over here, I guess you could call it the state of the art. And there are other projects going on too. One of them's kind of interesting, or two of them really. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with my current project, but a mystery print came from the Davidson Gallery. After their fire, they discovered one of my prints was still in their inventory. I still haven't opened it. I'm curious what it is. And coming up next in my experiments is my drone docent. So I bought a drone to learn on, and the idea is that we'll fly around the gallery and make videos and act like a little fly on the wall, sort of. That's what's coming up next. And the blender here sits here because we're going to do paper making, which is the first step in the 5-step printmaking teaching method that I'm designing, followed up, of course, by plate making and press making and printmaking, and finally the print pals. Well, thanks for watching. Yes, it's a wrap. I've reached the end of this phase, Kids Printmaking Space, but it's not finished. We're moving on to the Kids Printmaking Space Lab. But before we go on to that, I want to make a special announcement, because there is a competitor for the kids subscription box, STEM learning subscription boxes, which is my dream. And I have a sample. I'll show you and make a special offer. I'm looking for a volunteer. I've been watching the industry for about 4 or 5 years. And one company I've focused on is called Kiwico. I actually bought a couple of their STEM learning kits as gifts for a friend of mine. And they are the first ones to come out with a printing box. They call it the printing press, and it is a printing press. You can watch the demonstration. I have a code here. And you can too. I need a volunteer now that I bought the printing press as a demonstration for our Kids Printmaking Space labs. I need a volunteer to put it together. You can watch it on video, see what's involved. Let me know if you're interested. If you have, especially if you have some kids, you can get involved with assembling this and testing this press. So let me know. And thanks again to all those people who supported the Kids Printmaking Space project. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.